The wedding industry is worth hundreds of billions of dollars every year. And after planning my own wedding recently, I can say that's probably true. So if you're not already tapping into this industry, you're seriously missing out. The good news is you don't need to be a wedding planner to profit from them. You can sell wedding templates. So let's create a complete wedding template bundle that customers are already buying. Let's quickly talk about why wedding templates are such a great product to sell. The first reason is that custom wedding stationery is expensive. Templates are a much more affordable alternative. The second reason is convenience. Yes, there are free wedding templates available in Canva, but what I found during my own wedding planning was that it's actually quite difficult to find a complete matching suite. You might find an invitation you like, but then the RSVP card doesn't match, or the seating chart has a completely different aesthetic. What we're creating in this video is an entire cohesive wedding suite where everything matches. Now, if you're still not convinced there's a market for this, let's jump into PROFITTREE, which is my product research tool of choice, and let's take a look at how wedding templates are actually performing on Etsy. If I search for digital wedding invitation, you'll immediately see pages and pages of wedding invitation templates that are selling really well on Etsy. And just looking at some of these revenue numbers is pretty incredible. Let's click into one of these listings. What I like about PROFITTREE is that I don't even need to go to Etsy anymore to analyze a listing. I can simply click View Listing and it'll show me everything I need to know right inside the platform. For example, this listing has generated over $47,000 in revenue, which is pretty impressive for a wedding invitation template. If we scroll down, you can also see additional insights like the number of views, favorites, estimated monthly sales, estimated monthly revenue, and listing age. And over on the right-hand side, it even shows the tags being used for that listing. It also shows demand signals like whether the item is currently in shoppers' carts, how many sales it's made recently, and how many views it's received over the last 24 hours. This is the kind of information I love looking at because it gives you clues about what's already working in the market. Success leaves clues, and tools like this help you uncover them. But PROFITTREE isn't just a product research tool. If you connect your Etsy shop, you also get access to a profit dashboard that lets you see all of your shop's key metrics in one place. Personally, I find it much easier to understand than digging through Etsy seller dashboard. And if you're running Etsy ads, there's also a dedicated section where you can track your ad performance as well. There are a lot of features packed into PROFITTREE, but one of the biggest reasons I recommend it, especially for beginners, is the pricing. Most Etsy tools charge a monthly subscription, which can feel like a big commitment when you're just getting started. PROFITTREE offers a lifetime deal for a one-time payment of $67, so you don't have to worry about adding another monthly expense to your business. If you'd like to check it out for yourself, I'll leave a link in the description below. I'd recommend grabbing the lifetime deal while it's still available because offers like that don't usually stick around forever. The first thing I like to do is decide on the overall style and aesthetic of the bundle. This is important because once you've established a design direction, it becomes much easier to create all of the other matching pieces that will be included in your wedding suite. One of my favorite things about creating wedding templates is that there's really no limit to what you can design. Every couple is different, every wedding has a different theme, and there are so many aesthetics you can explore. From elegant and minimalist to vintage, boho, gothic, whimsical, and everything in between. For this tutorial though, we're going with a style that's been incredibly popular on Etsy lately. It's playful, a little retro, and has that hand-drawn personalized feel that a lot of couples are gravitating toward right now. So now that we have our style figured out, let's gather the design elements we're going to be working with. For this particular bundle, we're only using 3 colors: yellow, orange, and white. For fonts, I'm using Beth Ellen and Deco. I've also pulled together a handful of graphics that help reinforce the overall aesthetic we're going for. If you want to find these yourself, go to Elements and search for Wedding Doodle. Then make sure to filter the results to free so you're only seeing free elements. That way you can market your template as not requiring a Canva Pro subscription, which removes a potential barrier for buyers and makes the product much more accessible. And even with the free elements, you'll find tons of really cute illustrations that work perfectly for wedding templates. I'll also put all of the template sizes we're creating today on screen here so you can easily follow along and recreate them yourself. With all of our design assets ready to go, let's start designing. Let's start with a wedding invitation template. For wedding invitations, I typically like to create a 3-page design. The first page acts as the cover page, the second page is the main invitation itself, then the third page is where I like to include more detailed information. For the first page, I'm starting with a yellow background and creating a checkered pattern. To do that, I'm going to head over to Elements and add a square shape. I'll change the color to white, and then I'm going to create 7 squares across the page. A little trick I like to use is to line up all 7 squares first so they fit perfectly across the width of the page. Once everything is evenly evenly spaced, I'll delete every other square to create the foundation of the checkerboard pattern. Then I'll duplicate the remaining squares and place them in between the gaps, creating that alternating checkered effect. Once that's done, I'll select everything, press Command+D on Mac or Control+D on Windows, and duplicate the entire row across the page until the background is filled. Now we have a perfectly custom checkered background. The reason I prefer creating my own instead of using a pre-made checkered graphic from Canva is because it's much more flexible. If I decide to resize the template later, switch it to a different format, or adjust the spacing, I can easily move the individual squares around and make everything fit perfectly. With pre-made graphics, you're often limited by the way the pattern was originally created. Next, we're going to search for a vintage ornament frame. Make sure to filter the results by free. I like this one here, so I'm going to use it and simply change the colors to match the palette we've chosen for this bundle. Once that's centered on the page, I'm going to take one of the design elements we selected earlier, the cocktail glass illustration, and place it right in the middle of the frame. Now let's add the names. I'm using the Beth Ellen font for this and changing the text to Alejandro and Isabella. I'm going to enlarge everything so it fills most of the page. Then I'll rotate it slightly to -7 degrees. By tilting the text slightly, it helps reinforce that playful handcrafted feel we're going for. And that's it for the cover page. Now let's move on to the second page, which is the main invitation. I'm going to start by adding the couple's names in the center. Next, I'm taking one of the design elements we selected earlier, which is this wedding table doodle, and placing it right underneath the names. I'm also going to add a few sparkle elements on both sides of the table. Right below that, I'm adding the text "Are Getting Married." And then underneath that, we'll include all of the main wedding details. For this section, I'm switching over to the deco font. I'll add placeholders for the wedding date and time, followed by the venue name and the address of the event. And that's it for the main invitation page. Now the last page is going to be the details page of the wedding invitation. I'm going to start by creating another background pattern. This time I'm adding a shape and changing it to yellow. Then I'm going to make it really thin by setting the width to 0.2 and stretching it all the way down the page. Next, I'll duplicate that line several times to create a series of vertical stripes across the page. Once I have all of my lines, I'll select everything, click position, and then hit tidy up to make sure they're all spaced evenly. Now I'm going to search for a doodle frame. I like this one here, so I'm going to use it and change the colors to match the rest of our design. Then I'll enlarge it until it fits nicely within the page. With the layout ready, it's time to add the remaining wedding details. I've created placeholder sections for the reception, accommodations, attire, and the couple's wedding website. Now don't worry too much about the exact wording here. In most cases, couples will customize all of this information themselves anyway. The main goal is to provide clear text placeholders that guide them on where each piece of information should go. And with that, our 3-page wedding invitation template is complete. Next, we're going to create an RSVP card. This is the card guests will use to let the couple know whether or not they'll be attending the wedding. I'm starting with a white background, and then I'm going to add the text RSVP using the Beth Ellen font. Next, I'm taking the same cocktail glass illustration that we use in the wedding invitation and placing it off to the side. Now I'm going to add 2 orange lines underneath the RSVP heading. I'll change the stroke weight to 2 and extend them across the page. I'll create a space for the guest's name using the deco font. Next, I'm adding a circle shape and removing the fill so it's just an outline. Then I'll add the text "Would love to attend" beside it. I'll duplicate both elements and create a second option that says "Sadly cannot attend." These will serve as the guest's response checkboxes. I'm also going to add a line that says "Kindly reply on or before," followed by a date. Beside that, I'll include a space for the number of guests along with an underline where they can fill in their response. To finish everything off, I'll add the couple's names along the sides so guests immediately know who the RSVP card belongs to. And that's it for our RSVP card. Next, we're going to create a save the date card. These are typically sent before the official wedding invitation to simply let guests know to reserve the date while the couple finalizes the rest of the wedding details. We're starting with a yellow background. Next, I'm going to search for another vintage ornament frame and place it in the center of the page. I actually really like this one here, but it's currently horizontal, so I'm going to rotate it so it works better with our portrait layout. Then I'll change the colors to match the rest of our design. Now it's just a matter of adding the text. I've included the save the date heading, the couple's names, a short note letting guests know they're invited, the wedding date, and then a small note at the bottom that says invitation to follow. To finish everything off, I'm going to reuse the same sparkle element from our previous designs and place it in the top left and bottom right corners. And that's it for Save the Date card. Alright, the next product we're going to create is a guest name card. These are typically placed at each guest's seat during the wedding reception so everyone knows exactly where they're sitting. For this, I'm actually going to create 2 different variations so the couple has a few options to choose from. For the first card, I'm starting with a yellow background. Then I'm going to recreate the checkered pattern we used earlier. I'll duplicate the white squares until they fill the width of the page, delete every other square, fill in the gaps, and then duplicate the full pattern until it covers the entire background. Next, I'm adding a large white rectangle in the center and resizing it so it takes up most of the page. I'll make sure it's positioned right in the middle. Then I'm going to add a border, change the stroke weight, and switch the color to orange. For the border style, I'm using this broken line effect. To finish the card, I'm adding the glass tower doodle we chose earlier, then adding the guest's name in the center and the table number in the top left corner. And that's it for the first guest name card. For the second card variation, I'm once again starting with a yellow background. This time, I'm going to reuse the vintage frame that we used earlier in the wedding invitation. I'll paste it onto the page, rotate it so it works with a horizontal layout, and then enlarge it until it fits nicely within the design. Next, I'm adding the champagne glasses illustration that we selected earlier. And then just like the first variation, I'll add the guest's name in the center along with a table number in the top left corner. And that's it for our second design. Next, we're going to design our table number cards. These are the cards that are typically displayed on each table during the reception, so guests can easily find the table they've been assigned to. We're once again starting with a yellow background. I'm also going to reuse the same checkered pattern we created earlier for the wedding invitation. I'm also going to bring in the same vintage frame ornament and the same cocktail glass illustration that we've already used in the other templates. When you're creating a bundle like this, it's completely okay to reuse layouts and design elements. The goal isn't for every page to look different. It's for everything to feel cohesive and look like it belongs together as part of the same set. Next, I'll place the table number in the center. Underneath that, I'm adding the wedding date, and then above it, I'll add the couple's names. To make it fit nicely within the top of the frame, I'm applying a curve effect and adjusting it until it follows the shape of the arch. The last thing I want to do is create multiple table cards. So I'm going to duplicate this design until I have 12 tables. Then I'll simply update the table numbers for each one. Now, this step isn't absolutely necessary since the customer can edit the numbers themselves, but I like doing it because it's one less thing they need to customize after purchasing the template. And that's it! We now have 12 table number cards ready to go. Next, we're going to create our food and drink menus. These are typically displayed at the reception and show guests what food and drinks will be served throughout the evening. We're going to start with the food menu. For this one, I'm using an orange background. Then I'm going to search for a postage stamp frame. I like this one here, so I'm just going to adjust the colors to match the rest of the bundle. Next, I'll add all of the text. I've got a large header that says menu, followed by sections for starters, mains, and desserts. For the menu items themselves, I actually just asked ChatGPT to generate a sample wedding menu. To finish the design, I'm going to add a few decorative elements. I'm placing a bouquet illustration on the left side and a champagne bottle on the right side to help frame the layout. And that's it for the food menu. For the cocktail menu, I'm actually going to save some time and duplicate the food menu we just created. Since the layout already works, all I really need to do is switch up the colors, change the header from menu to cocktails, and replace the food items with drink names instead. For the cocktail descriptions, you can use ChatGPT to generate a list of signature cocktails along with their ingredients. Then to finish everything off, I'm just going to swap out the decorative elements on the side so it feels slightly different from the food menu while still matching the overall aesthetic of the bundle. And just like that, we have a cocktail menu. Next, we're going to create a seating chart. These are usually displayed near the entrance of the reception so guests can quickly find their names and see which table they've been assigned to before taking their seats. I'm starting with a white background. First, I'm going to add the word seating, then duplicate it and change the second text to chart. I'll place both of these in the top left corner and rotate them slightly. Next, I'm adding the same table illustration we used earlier on the right side, and right below that, I'll add the couple's names. Now we're going to create the actual seating chart. I'll start with one table number and add a few guest names underneath it. Then I'll duplicate that section until I have 6 table numbers with names below each one. If you're wondering where I got these names, I just asked ChatGPT to generate random guest names for me. You can do that, or you can simply use placeholder text like name here. Either option works. I also duplicated this seating chart and created 2 more variations. One with 9 tables and another with 12 tables. It's the same layout, but I added more tables and adjusted the spacing so everything still fits nicely on the page. And that's it for the seating chart. And the last thing we're going to design is a thank you card. These are sent out after the wedding as a way for the couple to thank their guests for celebrating such a special day with them. I'm starting with a white background. First, I'm going to add a really thin rectangle shape and duplicate it several times to create a striped pattern that covers about half of the page. Next, I'm adding an arch-shaped frame that I found on Canva and dropping a stock photo into it. I chose a photo with warm yellow and orange tone so it feels cohesive with the rest of the designs. Then I'm going to search for a ribbon doodle and place it near the photo. I like this one here, so I'm just going to change the color to orange. Then on the right-hand side, I'll add a thank you message along with the couple's names as a signature. Finally, I'm going to add the same sparkle icon we've been using. And that's it for a thank you card. And there you have it, a complete wedding template suite. Now there are a few additional templates you could include if you wanted to make the bundle even bigger. Things like a welcome sign, guest book sign, wedding timeline, engagement invitation, bachelorette invitation, bachelorette itinerary, budget planner, guest list, and vendor list. That said, the templates we created in this tutorial are usually the core pieces included in a wedding suite, so couples will already have most of the wedding printables they'll need. Now when it comes to delivery, you have two options. You can either provide each template as its own Canva template link, or you can combine everything into one Canva project and deliver a single template link. Both options work perfectly fine. As for pricing, I would personally list a complete bundle like this somewhere between $20 and $30. You can also sell the templates individually if you'd like, which a lot of Etsy sellers do. In that case, you would simply price each template separately. And that's it for this tutorial. Let me know in the comments what you'd like me to create next. Don't forget to check out PROFITTREE using the link in the description below. It's the tool I personally use for product research. Take advantage of the 67 lifetime deal before it's gone. As always, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It really helps my channel. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!